Hey everyone, it's Brian here from Massey's Main Entertainment. We finally got a chance to get back together again here. We were, separated for various reasons. We like to take a break every few videos too, as well, to get a little bit of refreshment. But we're back now, and we're into the top 30 of our top 100 favorite movies of all time. Joined tonight by my regular guys who've been with me through this whole journey. Rich, who's looking good now that he's got a seat. He's very comfortable, and he's went to the concession stand. Doc, thanks for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it. You were like stuck in Detroit or something, right? Was it Detroit?
Yeah, in the Windsor, Detroit area. Yes.
Yeah, of all cities to be stuck in, you couldn't be stuck in someplace a little bit nicer. I mean, that's crazy. And then Randy, thanks for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it. Randy found a bunch of great picks of mine in a nice bargain place and scooped them up. So he's going to watch those real soon. So like I said, we're in the top 30 here. So tonight we'll be counting down from number 30 down to number 21. And guys, I noticed by scrolling down and looking at my last 30, I'm like, these are the ones that I just couldn't imagine them being anywhere else but in this top 30. I'm starting to look at just all really great movies and all really strong films at the same time that are like legendary in a way. So is that what you guys saw as well?
Yes.
Yeah, that's everybody's like, yeah, sure.
In a word, yes. Now, I mean, these are the ones that I either return to or are so monumental in my mind that they have to be in the top end of the list. That's just the way it is. Not necessarily the best, like we said many times, but my favorites, or a couple of them, are just, they knock you out of your seat when you see them. Even if you've seen them once or twice, they're that good. So they're going to be at the top.
Yeah, absolutely. Doc, you feel the same way?
Exactly. Rich is bang on. These are our favorite movies. They might not necessarily be the best movies of all time. Some of them aren't on my list. I can guarantee that because Caddyshack is on my top 100, and I know it's not the top 100 movie of all time. But to
Weekend
me,
at Bernie's too.
it's no, that just missed. That just missed. But you get the idea. These are your favorite movies, and yeah, some of the cream of the crop comprises. Not everything's going to be, there's going to be holes and a whole bunch of plots in the 400 movies that we ring off. But whatever the case, they're fun, they're enjoyable to us, and I think that's the whole point here. So these are our favorite movies, and yeah, sometimes the cream does rise to the crop, and as we get closer, I feel the same way you did, Brian.
Excellent.
The list is solid, I think.
Randy, you can same thing.
Yeah, I think so. I've rewatched a bunch of these, and they're still a joy to see, and so I don't think I'm going to change any.
Yeah, perfect.
Nice.
All right, so tonight's order is going to be Rich. You hit to kick us off tonight. I'll follow you at number 2. Doc, he seems to be happy with the bronze medal tonight. He said so several times before we went on the air. Randy, you're batting cleanup tonight. So let's do this, guys. Let's jump in.
All righty. Let's do it. Number 30 for me is On the Waterfront from 1954. 12 Oscar nominations and 8 Oscars this baby brought home. Marlon Brando, of course, just a powerhouse drama. Influential in the method acting that he really frontiered. A lot of the young actors, the James Deans, the Montgomery Cliffs, they had their own slant on it. But Marlon Brando is the king of method acting in my mind. And this is just one of the examples of it. Story of union corruption, extortion, and racketeering along the waterfronts in Hoboken, New Jersey, of all places. Directed by Elia Kazan, a wonderful supporting cast run by Lee J. Cobb, Carl Malden, Rod Steiger, some of the best actors of their generation, and Eva Marie Saint as the female interest. So that's number 30, On the Waterfront, a classic from the 50s. Number 29, To Kill a Mockingbird from 1962. Gregory Peck's landmark performance as lawyer Atticus Finch. This is sort of a coming-of-age courtroom drama. He's trying to stop racial injustice in the Deep South, told from the female perspective of his daughter, Scout, played by Mary Badham. It's from a Horton Foote screenplay based on the Harper Lee novel and directed by Robert Mulligan. Gregory Peck won the Oscar for this. It did lose the Best Picture award, though, to Lawrence of Arabia, which you can understand. That's a epic classic, but that was a hell of a battle in 1962, To Kill a Mockingbird and Lawrence of Arabia out in the same year. So I just love the story, the way it's shot. There's a lot of mystery involved as well. I don't want to give away too much of it, but it's just a fantastic watch of the time. 1962, To Kill a Mockingbird. Number 28, another black and white movie, but this time in the 70s, 1971. I'm going with The Last Picture Show, another coming of age classic directed by Peter Bogdanovich, starring a lot of young actors here. Timothy Bottoms and Jeff Bridges, Sybil Shepherd, some veterans like Ben Johnson, Cloris Leachman, and Ellen Burstyn. A great cast. It's a story of friends growing up in this all but dead North Texas small town. It's post-World War II. There's no industry, no local commerce. Time sort of left this town behind, and everybody's trying to figure out what their next move is. These young people, how to get out, how to move on with their lives. It's filmed in black and white, very realistic, stark, desolate, bleak. It may not sound interesting, but when you get into the film and the characters that it's built around, I think it's just an excellent movie. And captured beautifully by Bogdanovich early in his career. Number 27, this may be a surprise to some people, but I just have a soft spot in my heart for this movie. 1996, Sling Blade, directed by Billy Bob Thornton. One of the all-time sleeper movies. It was done on a low budget of $1 million. It grossed $24 million in the U.S. and another 10 worldwide. Just a virtual one-man show by Billy Bob Thornton, written, directed, starring, and he hires these other young actors, especially Lucas Black as the young boy, who really does a phenomenal job. They sort of have this bonding. Billy Bob Thornton, if you don't know the story, is an intellectually disabled man who was institutionalized for about 25 years in a mental hospital. He gets out, he befriends this young boy, and they sort of form this friendship, and he has his own drama going on in his life with his stepfather, I guess, Dwight Yoakam, who's a real tough guy, and Billy Bob and him square off a few times. Robert Duvall has a cameo, which is effective. John Ritter's in this. J.T. Walsh, the great character actor. Great cast. And to me, it's a near perfect film. Even though the Sling Blade would think it's a horror movie, it's really not. It's the weapon he used in his life to put him in the mental hospital. But it's a metaphor, I guess, for the film. Number 26, personal favorite again. Eyes Wide Shut, 1999, directed by Stanley Kubrick, his last film, starring Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman. This is a bizarre, fascinating exploration of fantasy and fidelity within the realities and dreams of a marriage. Very spacey in a way. What's going on is real, whether it's in somebody's head, it's a mind screwing over of sorts. It walks that tightrope between truth and lies, fantasy and reality, sexual curiosity, perversion, taboo, voyeuristic, jealousy within the marriage. To me, it gets better with every viewing, and masterfully directed. And Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman put like 2 or 3 years of their lives on hold to make this movie, to get it right, and it ended up costing them in the divorce court. But an effective film. Number 25 is one that somebody had earlier in our series, Silence of the Lambs, the great Jonathan Demme film from 1991, starring Jodie Foster and Anthony Hopkins. Jodie plays this FBI trainee, Clarice Starling, and Hannibal Lecter's played by Anthony Hopkins, who's a imprisoned serial killer. They're matching wits. She's using him to try to find the active serial killer, Buffalo Bill, and he's still out on the loose, killing and carving people up. And I don't want to get into too much of it, but it's my number one horror film of all time, and it placed 25th on the list. It won Oscars for not only Best Picture and Director, but actor, actress, screenplay. It took home the Big Five that year. It's one of the few that have done that, along with Cuckoo's Nest, and It Happened One Night, I believe, are the other two. Just a must-see. Number 24, old school, Rear Window, 1954, Alfred Hitchcock classic, the Master of Suspense, starring Jimmy Stewart and Grace Kelly. Great villain here by Raymond Burr as well. Jimmy Stewart's convalescing with a restrictive cast from his hip all the way down to his foot, sitting in a wheelchair in an apartment, looking out of his balcony and sort of at the courtyard of the other people on the other side of the apartment complex all day. He's kind of bored until he comes upon what he thinks is a missing person, or maybe a possible murder. It's got this semi-voyeuristic kind of vibe to it. He's naming all the people along the way. He's creating his own characters because he has nothing better to do. And this whole thing leads him into this detective kind of film in a way. He uses Grace Kelly as to figure out some of the things that are going on across the way. She's absolutely gorgeous, never looked better in her life. And of course, Raymond Burr is the villain, playing sort of against type from what I've been watching. Like, I've watched a lot of Perry Mason, where he's on the other side of the law. Number 23, another Hitchcock film, back to back. North by Northwest, 1959. A classic case of mistaken identity. Got the mystery, very entertaining. Twists, turns, just high-level movie making all the way. Cary Grant, Eva Marie Saint, second time she showed up in this block of 10 films. You got James Mason and Martin Landau as well. The Grand Central Station scene is outstanding in the beginning of the film. Then you got the crop duster. There's so many, Mount Rushmore, all these memorable scenes woven into this story here. In the cornfield, I'll never forget that scene. You got another beauty in Eva Marie Saint, a sexy femme fatale, and James Mason is the sophisticated villain. This is just, I think it's my favorite Hitchcock film when it all comes down to it, and I have it ranked at number 23, just edging out Rear Window. They're 1 and 2 in my book. Number 22.
Still alive at 100.
What's that? I'm sorry.
Even Marie Saint's still alive at 100.
Yes, she is. Yep.
Jeez.
Still alive. Good genes there. Number 22 is All the President's Men from 1976, directed by Alan J. Pakula, Robert Redford, and Dustin Hoffman playing Woodward and Bernstein, the reporters from the Washington Post, who break the Watergate case wide open and eventually leading to Richard Nixon's resignation. This is really journalism the way it should be, where you take piece by piece, source by source, searching for the truth, phone calls, interviews, knocking door to door, investigating it the right way, and until you get the answer of the jigsaw puzzle. Riveting stuff, even though when this film comes out in 1976, you already know the outcome, but it doesn't matter. This just works as a movie watching experience. Jason Robards, Jack Warden, Martin Balsam, and Hal Holbrook all add their expertise to these supporting roles. And number 21, 1979's Apocalypse Now, Francis Ford Coppola's masterpiece of the insanity of war, surrealistic, visionary masterpiece, really. A journey up the river into the heart of darkness, starring Martin Sheen, Robert Duvall, Marlon Brando, Dennis Hopper, the surfing with the bombs going off. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. That just shows you. That's like symbolic scene of the insanity of war. The helicopters bombing this village with the classical music cranked up. The Doors, the song "The End" at the end of the film. Again, Napalm in the Morning. There's just so many wonderful memories. I know it's a bleak subject matter, but it's artistically done, beautifully shot and acted, and one of the better nom films out there for the time. Apocalypse Now. That'll wrap up my list for tonight.
Nice. Yeah, real quick, To Kill a Mockingbird. Of course, my grandson that's due like any moment now. His middle name will be Atticus.
Cool.
My daughter's an English major. Can you tell? So that settled that. Really happy to see that on the list. Really happy to see Sling Blade on the list. I think, like you said, Robert Duvall, who also was in To Kill a Mockingbird.
Right.
That small role he had in Sling Blade was powerful for as little time as he was in the movie. It gave you kind of insight into the psyche that was behind everything that went on,
Right.
So that was interesting. And I knew you were going to have All the President's Men somewhere. I just didn't know exactly where. Yeah, I know you're a big fan of the movie, so.
Love it.
Yeah, great list. There's a couple that are going to be appearing later for me and another video.
Cool.
Nice. Awesome.
Yeah, really good list, buddy. That's what I'll say.
All right, I'll jump into mine then here, guys. Number 30 for me, I've got Paul T. Anderson's There Will Be Blood from 2007. Story of Daniel Plainview, the ambitious oil prospector of the 20th century, becomes increasingly consumed with greed and paranoia as he builds his empire. His ruthless pursuit of wealth and success leads to violent conflicts with a local preacher, played by Paul Dano excellently, and estrangements from his adopted son. Film culminates in this brutal and tragic confrontation at the end, which I won't divulge here. This movie's just great to watch, highlighting the destructive nature of unchecked ambition. Daniel Day-Lewis, arguably his best role, but he has so many roles that are like, class A roles that it would be really difficult to rank his movies. But this one's right up there for sure. Number 29, I've got David Lynch here from 1986, Blue Velvet. I know David Lynch has acquired taste. A lot, I know plenty of people just don't care for his movies, and he's got a very surreal feel to him. But this is a surreal thriller that kind of begins when college student Jeffrey Beaumont discovers a severed ear in a quiet suburban town, leading him into this dark underworld of crime, depravity. As he investigates, he runs into this mysterious singer, Dorothy Valens, and sadistic criminal Frank Booth, played by Dennis Hopper, and he was absolutely incredible in it, uncovering this disturbing reality of the town's seemingly idealistic surroundings. Kind of goes underneath the surface there, which is something that David Lynch does a lot in his movies. Film explores those themes of voyeurism and human nature, and innocence versus corruption. So. Number 28 for me, I've got The Exorcist here from 1973. I'm not sure whether it's been mentioned yet or not, and somebody had to remind me of that. Follows the terrifying ordeal of a young girl named Regan who becomes possessed by a demonic entity, leading her mother to seek help from two priests. As the priests conduct their harrowing exorcism, they are confronted by the sheer force of evil, risking their lives in faith to save Regan's soul. The effects at the time, as hokey as they might seem now, once we're privy to how things were done or anything, I still think they hold up. If you try to forget all the ways that they've told you how they did these effects, I still think they hold up. And at the time, they were just absolutely, horrifying, especially to me as just a young kid when I first saw it. Like I was like 6 or 7. Imagine that. So, number 27, I've got maybe, one of the ultimate adventure movies, Steven Spielberg's 1981 Raiders of the Lost Ark, following archaeologist Indiana Jones, played by Harrison Ford, as he embarks on his thrilling quest to find the biblical Ark of the Covenant before the Nazis can use its power for world domination. Racing against time, Indy faces, numerous dangers, especially, the snakes, which he absolutely hates, treacherous rivals, and all the while battling, his own fears and doubts about various things. Like I said, films like this, high adventure, about courage and wit and relentless determination. I know there was a whole theory about whether or not he was even relevant to the outcome of the movie, because in the end, everybody theorized that the Ark would still destroy the Nazis, even if they got to it first, obviously, and once they did, and end up back into the American hands anyway, and then put into storage. So it was one of those things, but it's a fun adventure. Everybody should watch it. So number 26, Goodfellas, Martin Scorsese from 1990. Doc, you got to be happy about this pick.
Oh,
yeah. Chronicling the rise and fall of Henry Hill. I want to be a gangster type of dude. The young man who becomes deeply involved in the New York mafia, reveling in the life of crime, wealth, and power. As he climbs in the ranks alongside his friends Jimmy and Tommy, played by Robert De Niro and Pesci. Henry's life spirals out of control because of drugs mostly, but betrayal and violence as well when he goes against the crime boss Servino under the orders that he gave him to stay away from those types of things. So film has this really gritty, unflinching look at the seductive yet destructive nature of organized crime. And I think the cast of characters that Scorsese put in this film, those tertiary characters and stuff, just great selections. Number 25, Rich, you've already just mentioned it. Francis Ford Coppola's 1979 Apocalypse Now. Captain Willard, a U.S. Army officer played by Sheen, as he embarks on this dangerous mission through the Vietnamese jungle to assassinate Colonel Kurtz, played by Marlon Brando, a rogue officer who's gone totally off the reservation, so to speak. And as Willard journeys deeper into the chaos of war, he encounters various surreal and nightmarish scenes that reflect the madness and the moral ambiguity of the conflict in Vietnam. I always said that what I really liked about it is that the river scenes, as the closer he gets to Kurtz, it seems like the more primitive everything was getting as far as the history of Vietnam. I mean, it's almost like you were going back in time, which I thought was very interesting from a film standpoint. Number 24, I've got another Scorsese movie, but from 80, Raging Bull, the biographical drama about Jake LaMotta, who rises to become this middleweight champion, but he has this violent temper that gets the best of him all the time and alienates those closest to him, including his brother and his wife, which eventually would lead to his downfall. The film is a powerful portrayal of destructive effects of unchecked anger and insecurity, and maybe just the best boxing movie, as far as feeling real. I mean, like you're really in the ring with these guys, and you can see the sweat and you can feel the heat coming off of their body, and you can see the fatigue on them. It's almost like you absorb those things. Just incredibly shot. So number 23, I've got another Spielberg movie for 75, Jaws. And I guess maybe I watched this movie enough times because maybe I'm secretly hoping that there's an alternate ending in which Dreyfus falls in the water at the end. That would have been that would have been nice. But really, no, I mean, really, it's still a fun movie to watch. It's about a small town being terrorized by this massive great white shark. Hold on a second, guys. I'll have to call someone back. But as the trio ventures out to sea, they face escalating dangers and terrifying intelligence of this predator that seems to be, they're out there to get this shark, but it seems like really the shark is the one who's actually like tracking them down. They're really the prey when they're out on the water, despite, the initial concept of the film. So great suspenseful thriller and themes of fear and survival, confrontation, all those sorts of things. Number 22, I've got Alfred Hitchcock from 1958, Vertigo here. Centers on former police detective Scotty Ferguson, played by our boy Jimmy Stewart, who suffers from acrophobia and is hired to follow a woman named Madeline, whom he falls obsessively in love with. Becomes entangled in this complex web of deception. As that obsession deepens, he experiences psychological unraveling and driven by his guilt and his fears and his mysterious surroundings. The film is a haunting exploration about obsession and identity, and maybe about the unattainable desires that some men have. So, and finally, at 21, I know this one will probably be the only mention of this movie, but it's one of my favorite movies, despite being really heavy. From Adam Magoyan's 1997, The Sweet Hereafter, the haunting drama that explores the aftermath of a tragic school bus accident in a small Canadian town, where a lawyer arrives to help the grieving family seek justice. And by justice, obviously compensation. As he delves into the community's pain, long buried secrets and personal sorrows all come to light, revealing complex and interconnected natures of grief. There's a huge parallel in the film that's going on between one of the girls who survives. She survives, but she's also ends up being confined to a wheelchair. There's a strange parallel that was going on throughout the movie between the story of the Pied Piper and her journey through the film as well. That I won't get into, because if you watch the film, it'll certainly bring those things together. But it's certainly, even though it's heavy, I would recommend anybody watch this if they've never seen it. So that's my number 21.
Outstanding.
Great list.
Great. Yep. That's a heavyweight list. Big time films.
Thank
All
you.
time. Yeah, The Sweet Hereafter, I love it. I think it's well done, but that's a tough watch, no question about it.
Yeah.
But it's a darn near perfect movie. I mean, it really sets out to do what it wants to do and accomplishes it. I love that girl in it, Sarah Polley. She did a fantastic job.
Just a great job.
Ian Holm.
Yeah, just great. Yeah, can't
A lot
can't
of the movies
recommend
on
it
the
enough.
list. A lot of movies on the list there, Brian. I like, and I don't want to say too much, but if you don't hear them now, then I hear them later. That's all I'll say.
That's a big time list. There's a lot of all time great movies on there for sure.
For sure.
All right, Doc,
I guess off I go, right? So
off you go, buddy.
number 30, man. I don't see this too often here, but it's number 73 on AFI's Top 100. So I don't know how this starts here, but from 1969, I'm going with the buddy classic, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
Yeah.
George Voorhill here getting together with Newman as he does in the future as well. But Newman and Redford here, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid is, I think the ultimate buddy movie, man. This is the beginning of what it's meant to be. Those kind of movies that go on in life. We talked about it previously. I think maybe even years ago we talked about this as the Lethal Weapons, and everybody else got this from Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. I think, man, that buddy cop thing, but the buddy guy thing, where it's bank robbers, train robbers. Maybe just tried one too many times, I think, here, and it's a fantastic action adventure, Western scenery, late 1800s here, robberies and stuff like that. It's Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid doing their thing, but like I said, maybe one too many times. It's playful, it's fun, it's got some action, it's got a lot of humor undertones to it, and what can you say, man? Newman and Redford are fantastic together in this movie. I think it's just a great guy flick, is what I would put it as. Butch Cassidy's and Sundance. Number 30. I think the list that you guys, Rich and Brian, you guys had, I think the similarities here are kind of weird in some senses here, but you'll see what I mean here. Number 14 on AFI's. I don't do this AFI thing at all, but it's number 14. But 1960, I got Hitchcock's Psycho.
Mm-hmm.
Just a classic, the beginning almost of like the slasher movies. Here you are with Anthony Perkins with his iconic role. Hitchcock being Hitchcock. It's the beginning of that slasher kind of flick, almost in one sense, right? It's the bad weather, the wrong turn, she's doing the big robbery to save herself, and trying to get themselves out of trouble, and pulls off to get some rest, and it's that wrong turn, man. And we knew a taxidermist was going to be such a badass, right? So, but, suspenseful. It's Hitchcock almost at his peak, especially on the horror side of things. So it really is. It's right there. Right up there with my favorite horror movies of all time, obviously. Psycho's a classic, and in some senses, an organized mess in a lot of senses, because there's a pull to the movie, like you have to follow it through, and the investigation that follows about where this lady might have gone afterwards and stuff. I want to do a deep dive on it if you've never seen the movie, but Psycho's a classic movie. If you haven't seen it, it's worth your time and effort, and you'll see what I mean. This is directing here. This is really well made, man. Number 28. This is why it's kind of funny. I also have Hitchcock back to back, and I got Rear Window right here.
Nice.
Yeah, it's there's Jimmy, right? And he's there laid out, and he's like the photographer. He's got the broken legs, and Grace Kelly is the eye candy for the movie. And listen, that Canadian Raymond Burr is really not that bad a dude. I don't think pretend to be a badass in this movie, but he doesn't represent all Canadians. But just some guy laid up, checking out the scenery, thinks he's passing his time watching his neighbors from his apartment window, and things unfold. You get a little bit more suspicious as it goes, and then your suspicion turns into something you're going to investigate. Your investigation turns into something that might be reality, and reality turns into something that may or may not be true. So Rear Window's a classic Hitchcock movie, man. There's no other way to put this. And once again, it's on the AFI. I don't know why I got that, man. 3 in a row here. Number 48 on the band. This shit, but whatever. Classic Hitchcock. Number 27. Not on the AFI. So there you go. But from 2007. No Country for Old Men.
Nice.
Just imagine just wandering around picking up a bag full of money at the wrong time, the wrong place, and stuff like this. And you think you've hit the jackpot and stuff. And meanwhile, it's just like, oh my God, what a disaster I've walked into here. And you don't know you've walked into a disaster. Because Javier Bardem is coming at you as Anton. this much money's gone missing. They're going to go looking for it, and they do. And this is edge of your seat suspense and the scenes when they, you're cringing. You almost want to look away at some scenes, man, just because, flipping coins from, and the reality of what their Anton's morals are for actually, hunting down this money. He has morals in some sense, but he follows through on everything that he says he's going to follow through on too. So the chase between him and really Josh Brolin, Tommy Lee Jones is the cop. They're both, who's going to get to Josh, who found the money here first, is really the catch here. And it's suspenseful. I think it's cinematography in this movie is really well done. And the scenes that happen, even the night scenes that happen in the shoots in the streets and stuff like that, it's really cool, man. So No Country for, and we're in top notch here movies, man. So No Country's right there for me. That brings me to what? Number 26 from 1971. Also not on AFI's top 100. I got no bloody why. I don't know why, but it should be. Dirty Harry. How can Dirty Harry not be on the friggin' top 100, man? I got no idea, but it is. But Clint Eastwood as Inspector Callahan, man. What do you want? The No Holds Barred. This is my favorite movies, man. These are like, I'm in a cop movie, man. I'm putting on Callahan. I'm putting on Dirty Harry, man. This is what I'm putting on. The anti-buck the system cop here, man, who does things his own way, gets thrown into investigations in San Francisco looking for the serial killer, Scorpio, played by Andy Robinson, who's fantastic as the killer, man. He's awesome. The guy got plagued for playing him so well, if you want the truth. Doesn't show up till Hellraiser later on in life. It's a great cops and bad guy kind of flick, man. What do you want? The chase, the investigation, the kidnapped girl, and just builds on itself. Pretty suspenseful too. I can't remember who made the movie. I can't remember who made the movie, but it's
John Siegel, I think.
Yes, Siegel.
Mm-hmm.
Siegel made it, and he does a really good job, man. And he was right to stick to his guns on some things that he'd made with this movie, man, because it's a tense time in some senses too, built off, the Zodiac kind of thing here that's happening in real life. But Scorpio is the serial killer in San Fran, and Dirty Harry is a classic cop flick in my eyes, man. You gotta ask yourself, do you feel lucky? Number 25, man, break the Pulp Fiction in 1994. I love this movie, man. I think I've told you guys many times. I saw this. I went back and saw it the next day.
Yep.
Samuel L. Jackson should have won the Oscar, I think, for Best Actor here, man. But they're all fantastic in their roles. And the supporting cast, Uma Thurman, the supporting cast, the cast, Travolta, Uma Thurman, Harvey Keitel, Eric Stoltz, Patricia Arquette, Bing Rhymes, Bruce Willis. These four intertwining stories that cross each other's paths as they go along here. It's just a real crime thriller movie. Really, the only way you can. And Tim Roth, I love Tim Roth in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
It shows you how good Quentin really is what I would say. And his script writing is fantastic. And again, here you are. We can talk about it all we want, but he knows how to write a movie, man. And Pulp Fiction's right up there. We're in the top tier 30 movies of my favorite movies. Number 24 from 1973, man. Got to do it. It's The Exorcist, Brian. So, yeah, you can talk about Jason Miller, Max Van Sydow, Ellen Bernstein. Great supporting cast. Linda Blair steals the show in The Exorcist, man. I'm not going to stop talking about that every time we bring up this movie. She's fantastic. I think she should have won the Oscar. I don't care about age. I don't care about anything else. She steals the show. It's the best horror movie ever. My favorite horror movie to me. To me, it's the best ever. It is. It still holds up, man. It's demonic and demon possession and everything else. And the story takes a while to get going. So it's the backstory is fantastic. This is iconic horror movies, man. This is peak. Maybe I have it too low on my list, man. Maybe it should be even higher. But I just have some other favorites that it's a mood thing with movies too, man. What do you want to hear? But The Exorcist is number 24. Number 23, No, one thing for sure, Brian's definitely going to say, geez, I wish he just would have stayed on the damn spaceship when he got on it. But yeah, I got Close Encounters, man. Spielberg, I think, Rich, you might have had this earlier.
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Spielberg knows how to tell a story, man. I think you're seeing this here. This is the set thing. This is, the mountain. Like I said, Brian, I'm sure you wish Richard Dreyfuss got on that spaceship at the end and kept on, and we never saw him again. So,
Yep.
Melanie Dillon, Terry Garr, whole little backstories and stuff. But it's really like the everyday guy that gets, sees a UFO and changes his life. And this is, the adventures, and these people are drawn to a certain spot here in the States here as it goes on. And the backstory about the war and the planes and the French and all this other stuff here. It's really well done. It's a really great sci-fi flick here, man, with UFOs and aliens and stuff like this, which is, I've said this one many times, but I saw this one in the drive-in, man, and I still love it today. I think Close Encounters is a classic. 22 leads me to another Quentin Tarantino flick, man. I got Inglourious Bastards. I was actually watching this there last week again, just to watch it. It's those kind of movies, right? That's exactly what it is. Brad Pitt's freaking fantastic in this movie. just to even revisit that role. He's I just love his character so much. Michael Fassbender, Christopher Waltz, and Diane Kruger, Melanie Laurent. The cast is great.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, it's Quentin. It's a script driven. It's that the first 15 minutes, if you're not sitting on the edge of your seat for the 15 minutes of the first 15 minutes of that movie, then you're not sitting on the movie, your edge of your seat for any 15 minutes of any movie, because that is tense, man. The build up, he knows how to do it, man. He knows how to tell you a story. Yeah, he changes history, he does all that stuff. I love that part of two guys going after Hitler in a different way to take him out at one time. The rest, here come the Americans. We're going to take him out. It doesn't matter. So I love it. Inglourious is a 3 drinks. Three. Which one? Classic. But my number 21. Now this one nobody will have on their list, so this will be one of those ones. But for 1991, I got Das Boot. Maybe my favorite war movie. Wolfgang Petersen's masterpiece. Jürgen Prochnow as the lead. This is the telling of World War II from a German U-boat standpoint, man. This is what it is. And it's a drawl. There's conflict internally on the sub. There's the new guys and the old guys battling with each other. And let me tell you, the way Wolfgang Petersen shows you this movie, especially inside the submarine, because this is where it takes place, man. It's a long haul. You watch the director's cut. You're there for 3 hours, but I'll tell you, it won't feel like 3 hours. And you'll be sitting on the edge of your seat for a lot of it as well. It's once again, it's a tense war movie. There's destroyers involved, and the British Army, and all these other things, and where they cruise to and they think they're out. And there's not many laughs in this one, man. This is a tense flick, but I love the movie, and there's no getting around it being one of my favorites. So I got Das Boot at number 21.
Excellent.
Awesome.
I like that. I knew Dirty Harry would make your list. I was wondering where it was actually going to fall. And I knew Inglourious Bastards also. I just did not know whether that would fall. I'm surprised it fell higher than Pulp Fiction, but hey, good.
Just a bit more.
Yeah.
I'll say this. I have, of those 10, I have 5 somewhere on my list. So batting 500. And the other 5, I like them all. They just couldn't squeeze on my list. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
But fantastic. Loaded. I mean, I was waiting for that submarine movie too, because I know you love the sub movies.
Yeah, I do.
Great. Yeah. Awesome.
Thank you.
Randy, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. You heard the cuckoo clock go off, maybe. Over at my dad's, but
okay.
All right. My number 30, which has already been mentioned, and it's from 1975, Steven Spielberg's Jaws. The movie that made so many people afraid to swim in the ocean. The 3 leads were so great in this and played off each other so well. Roy Scheider, Robert Shaw, and sorry, Brian, Richard Dreyfuss. I'm not sure that there has been a thriller more effective than this, especially with the iconic soundtrack that fuels the thrills. I also love the dialogue, like the Robert Shaw recounting his time on the USS Indianapolis and the harrowing aftermath. And I found out that that was actually done in one take. The day before they were going to shoot it, and he was so drunk that they couldn't really get through it. And he promised he was going to be ready, and he did it in one take the next day. But just a great thriller. My number 29, Richard said something about, some movies are just so good that you just have to put them on your list. And that's from 1941, Citizen Kane, Orson Welles. Often called the best movie ever made. It is still a joy to watch for the artistry, the unique camera angles, the deep focus, the great storytelling, the beginning mystery. It all adds up to an eventful viewing experience. What is amazing that this was Orson's first movie as a director, and it's one we still are lucky enough to see today, as powerful newspaper magnate William Randolph Hearst felt it too closely resembled his life and fought to have all the copies of the film destroyed. So we're still lucky to see it. But the photographic accomplishments of this film are still amazing to this day. All right, my number 28, this is a personal favorite that you've heard me talk about before, and that's The Man Who Would Be King from 1975, directed by John Huston. This is a personal favorite, like I said, with Michael Caine and Sean Connery's interplay, some of the best committed to film. This is what an adventure picture is supposed to be like. Caine and Connery set off to make themselves king in a land where white men hadn't ventured for ages. They were very successful up to a point, which you'll have to see the movie to see how they weren't successful. But John Huston's direction is just masterful in this one, so I had to include it. Number 27, from 1938, The Adventures of Robin Hood, directed by Michael Curtiz. It was started by William Kiley, but he was replaced soon after it was started. Michael Curtiz wasn't really considered an auteur, and I think part of that was because he worked in so many different genres, but he always put out a quality picture, and it's a stunningly vibrant film and glorious technicolor that just jumps off the screen. Errol Flynn will always be Robin Hood to me, and Eric Korngold's Oscar-winning score really helps as well. It's just a great swashbuckling adventure, and no one is better at these than Errol Flynn. Number 26, I have another Preston Sturges film here, and that's The Miracle of Morgan's Creek from 1943. This is Sturges, one of Sturges' favorite actors, Eddie Bracken, is hilarious in this movie, stuck in the friend zone with Betty Hutton, and his attempts to get her out of a delicate situation brings them closer together and provides some classic screwball situations. What is the miracle? You'll have to watch and see it, but it was amazing that they got away with this in 1943. I'm sure they were really skirting the production code at this time. Also, William Demarest and Diana Lynn are also joys to watch in this one. They provide some of the really funny banter. Miracle Morgan's Creek, I just think it's a comedy classic. And number 25, speaking of comedy classics, another one from 1937, The Awful Truth, Leo McCarey, another great screwball comedy. This one stars Irene Dunne and Cary Grant. And I wish Irene Dunne had done more comedies because she is just fantastic with such great timing. She also did another movie with Cary Grant called My Favorite Wife, which of course, and Cary Grant was a pro himself in the screwball genre. Irene Dunne and Cary Grant are a married couple who have filed for divorce, but are having second thoughts. And their schemes to get back together provide some of the funniest scenes I've ever seen in movies, and it cracks me up every time I see it. I think one of those funny movies is The Awful Truth. And 24, one that had been mentioned already too, and that's Raiders of the Lost Ark from 1981, Steven Spielberg. If you wanted to show someone what an action adventure movie was like, this would be the one to show them as one of the greatest examples of movie making perfection. They said it was kind of like the serials of old, but it was a lot better than those serials if you've seen it. But this is my favorite Spielberg movie that put the character of Indiana Jones, played by Harrison Ford, into everyone's consciousness. I'm not sure you can make a a film that is more fun than this. It's just a thrilling ride with just the right amount of humor. And I don't know anybody that doesn't like this movie. Number 23, I've got an Alfred Hitchcock movie here. It's Notorious from 1946. That's my second Cary Grant movie today. And in this movie, he's pretty unlikable for the first part of the movie. The suspense in this movie comes with Ingrid Bergman, who is recruited to go undercover with a German businessman who is infatuated with her. It is set in Rio de Janeiro, and whether she will be found out provides some of the suspenseful moments. Hitchcock's amazing visual style is on full display here with some amazing camera work. Another great one by the master. Number 22, I'm going to go back in time here to 1926, and that's Buster Keaton's The General.
Oh, wow.
Buster Keaton's my favorite silent comedian, and I think that this is his masterpiece. He was that expressionless everyman that would always give it the old college try, whatever the situation. But he is turned down for service during the Civil War because of his skills as an engineer. And the general is actually his train, and he tries to save it and his girl. It's an action comedy with perfect set pieces by Keaton. Just has some amazing scenes when you think that was actually done in 1926. But yeah, my favorite silent movie, The General. And number 21, another one that I'm sure nobody's going to have. It's my favorite Val Lewton film, and it's I Walked with a Zombie from 1953, directed by Jacques Tourneur. This is a masterpiece of created atmosphere. It's entrancing, and it also creates an underlying sense of dread. The storytelling is almost dreamlike, with many amazing shots and sequences. Frances D stars as a nurse sent to a West Indian sugar plantation to help care for a comatose woman. What she finds are some very strange happenings, voodoo and all sorts of other things. And it's not a horror movie in the sense of scares and chills, but it does call for this kind of foreboding, surreal ride that's just amazing to me. It's one of the coolest looking atmospheric films I've ever seen, I think, and it's my number 21.
Wow. I mean, that's of your list, that one jumped out at me because I'm like, that's a song by Rocky Erickson. I Walked with a Zombie. came out like in 1980, I think, or something. I was like, okay. I said, now I know where he got the song title from. So I've got to see that one. And what was the Miracle movie's name again?
Miracle of Morgan's Creek.
Yeah, I got to see that. That's two movies I've got to see off your list right there.
Yeah, I have one, Sweet Hereafter. I've never seen that one. Eyes Wide Shut, I've not seen that Rich has, even though I love Stanley Kubrick. I just haven't got around to seeing it.
Oh my.
Nice.
I love Irene Dunn. I'm glad that was in there. Great. She was one of my favorite actresses of that era for sure.
Yeah, we all had a Hitchcock.
Yeah.
We all had a Hitchcock, and some Spielberg going around too with Jaws and Raiders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lots of love there. Nice. Well, there we go, guys. We're getting closer. Got us down here to where we'll be doing the top 20 over the next couple weeks. So I want to thank you guys for joining me. Randy, thank you very much. I knew you were going to throw a lot of movies right here when we get into the top 30, where I was like, oh man, he's pulling out the oldies now. And thank you, Doc.
Of course.
Doc, I knew you would have some of your movies for sure. And Rich, thank you very much. I appreciate you guys joining us. Guys, look for our series as we continue to wrap this up. We appreciate you guys watching. Please like, sub, and comment down below, especially give us your top movies. Now that we're in the top 30, it might be a little bit easier for you guys to participate. It's not so many movies that you have to string together, but we certainly would appreciate your input. So until next time, everybody take care out there. All right, bye-bye.